My hair hurts. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you something that you guys probably didn't know. Not all vampires are the same. Yes, there are different types of vampires out there. There are different types of breeds or species of vampire, which should be obvious because there are different types of people in the world. So it should also be obvious that not every vampire is going to do or be into the same exact things. Nor will every vampire have the same exact experiences. So this video is going to be about feeding. Of course, different vampires might feed differently. I just named two different breeds, two different species. They're labeled as two different species because of the way they feed. These are the two most famous different species of vampires, I guess. And for the most part, people are going to say these are the only two different types, which is understandable because most of us have only met one or the other. If there are others out there, feel free to hit me up on social media and say that, let me know. But not every person likes the same exact things, right? Not every person likes the same kind of foods, the same way, all the time, at the same exact times. So of course, there are different vampires that might feed differently. Again, we're talking about two. The first one I'm gonna talk about is psychic vampires, or psy-vamps. So a psy-vamp is a vampire that feeds off of people in psychic means, in a psychic way. But psychic feeding alone can be done in numerous ways. So I'm going to name one or two. I'm gonna try to do two because time. One way would be touch, in which the vampire will feed off of another person through physical touch. Depending on the way the touching is happening or how the touching is being done will probably determine just how much psychic energy the vampire is actually feeding from or taking. This is one of the reasons why vampires, living vampires, are so sexual, or probably more sexual than the average person. Then there's the second way of feeding, of getting energy from a person. The second way a vampire can get energy from a person would be proximity feeding. Proximity feeding being also kind of self-explanatory. Pretty much a vampire sucking energy from somebody or sucking energy out the room by being in that room or within a close proximity to that person. So basically it's feeding off a person without actually physically touching them. This would be a good way a vampire will get their pranic energy or pranic energy, depending on where you're from and what your accent sounds like, or their emotional energy, which kind of manipulates feelings in some weird way, shape, or form, and then their tantric energy. The tantric meaning sexual, obviously. These are three easy ways to feed, three easy pieces of energy to get off a person, because a person radiates any of these three, if not all three, without doing anything except just being alive. The feeding off of the emo energy is probably what will cause a sudden change in personality or mood or feelings or emotions out the blue. The sudden change is usually caused by taking the emotions from the person or people that the vampire is feeding from, and then they kind of just feel those emotions and or act those emotions out. That feeding off of that emo energy is probably one of the biggest problems newly turned vampires have, and one of the biggest problems the sires, the people who turn these vampires, probably have as far as teaching them how to control that. Or they might have a problem teaching them how to not feed so much, to not take in any negative energy or any bad emotional energy, or how to not take in energy at all if need be, or how to just take in just the energy and not the emotions that might come with it. And then there's the sexual energy, the tantric energy, that I probably and everybody else can go all in detail about. And I'm gonna figure out a way to talk about it in detail, but not now because YouTube. So moving on to the next breed or species of vamps, sanguinarian, or sang vamps. Blood play, bloodletting, anything to do with blood. There's your definition for that. Such a scary, taboo topic. These are the vampires that media is pretty much based off of. These are the vampires that need to feed off of people by getting life force, not through psychic means, but through blood, drinking blood, even some people's cases touching it, blood play in some way. This is the first, and for like 98% of the people who watch this video, the only thought that comes to mind when you hear the word vampire. So for the record, no, I don't mean literally biting through a person's jugular vein in their neck and sucking down pints and pints of blood at a time. Nor do I mean slicing a person's neck or wrist open and sucking down gallons of blood coming out of their damn wrist. I would take time to go into the exact details of how that should be done and how it is or feels or why a person does it, but no. If you like that kind of gore, that kind of digging teeth into skin, blood squirting, or the romantic sexual drinking and blah 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 blah, there are plenty of sappy TV shows and movies that do all that. There are plenty of gory, violent ones that do all that. So yeah, you should know how that is by now. What I discuss here, and for the most part on this channel, is not what you see in the media. It's not exactly how the media portrays stuff. That's the difference right there. Since I get this question a lot, that's the difference right there between vampire spelt with the I and vampire spelt with the Y. Short version, vampire spelt with the Y represents anything vampiric or vampires having to do with the media. What you read in books, what you read in novels, what you see in TV shows, and what you see in movies. The vampire with the Y represents actions or things taking place or things that are happening or people that live this lifestyle in real life. The real vampire and or the living vampire. That is the vampire with a Y. The real truth behind the feeding is no person should have seen a vampire just outright feed off of anybody like that in public. If you ever see a vampire outright feeding off of somebody like that in public, they're doing something wrong, or they're not a vamp, but want to try to be. No real living vampire is going to do that blatantly for other people to see, because the law. So I'm going to be the first one to tell you, as a vamp myself, if you ever see somebody attacking somebody, biting their neck, trying to cut them open and get blood or whatever, and even if the person is letting them do it, call the cops. I don't care if they hate on every vampire after that. I don't care if the person does. I don't care if the cops do. I'd much rather that person get in trouble than to run around and constantly do it, because then it makes you guys think all of us are like that. It's not how it works. I hope this answers a lot of you guys' questions. If it answered a lot of you guys' questions, good. If it left you with more questions, even better. Contact me, messages, social media. Ask any questions you want. Please subscribe to this channel. Please like this video. Please share this video. And I'm gonna tell you something that they always said on my block growing up. Bye. 7 and some change hours throughout the day, I sit down to record a video for YouTube. Suddenly, 2 phone calls, 6 text messages come in. Because that's how good my luck is. Drop my phone, perfect condition, because Android.